He ordered a wife online, but when she arrived, he humiliated her in public. Make sure you watch this story till the end, because the truth will leave you absolutely stunned. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life inspired stories. Comment below where you're watching from. Amara Wilson had never imagined her life would come to this, standing in the dusty middle of a small Texas town, clutching a faded suitcase, while strangers stared at her as though she were an exhibit in some circus. The scorching afternoon sun bore down, and a dry wind whipped against her face. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her chin up. She wasn't about to let these people see her break. She spotted him at the edge of the crowd, Alexander Maxwell. Tall, broad-shouldered, cowboy hat tilted back just enough to reveal a face carved in arrogance. He leaned casually against his shiny black pickup truck, arms folded like he owned the whole damn county. Which, in a way, he did. His family's name was on half the properties in town, from the local bank to the grain mill. This was the man she'd crossed an ocean for. The man whose charming letters had promised her a new life, a home, and, dare she believe it, love. Her steps quickened despite the sinking feeling in her stomach. She adjusted her dress, a pale yellow thing she'd chosen because it looked cheerful in the photographs they'd exchanged. She'd imagined him smiling, lifting her into his arms, maybe even whispering, "Welcome home." Instead, his lips curled into a smirk that made her stomach knot. "Well," Alexander drawled, loud enough for everyone within earshot, "ain't you something?" A ripple of laughter ran through the small crowd that had gathered, curious to see the so-called mail-order bride from Africa. Amara's cheeks burned. She tightened her grip on the suitcase handle until her knuckles whitened. "Alexander," she said softly, trying to ignore the whispers, "it's me." "Amara, I can see that," he said, his eyes sweeping over her like she was a piece of furniture he'd ordered and immediately regretted. "But these pictures..." He pulled out his phone, scrolling dramatically. "They must have been taken a long time ago." The crowd chuckled again, and Amara felt the ground sway beneath her feet. "Alex, please," she whispered, her throat tight. "We wrote letters for months." "You said..." "I said a lot of things," he cut in, his voice cold now. "But I didn't expect this. You think you can just waltz in here, looking like that, and be my wife? Hell, I wouldn't even hire you to clean my stables." The laughter roared this time. Someone actually spit tobacco juice into the dirt and muttered, "City folk will believe anything." Amara's eyes blurred, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. She turned on her heel and started walking, the weight of humiliation heavier than the Texas heat. Behind her, Alexander's voice rang out one last time, dripping with venom. "Next time, sweetheart, make sure you send the real picture." The laughter followed her down the empty road until it faded into silence. That night, Amara sat on a splintered bench outside the bus station, her suitcase beside her, her phone dead. She had $40 to her name. No family here. No friends. Nothing but a heart bruised beyond recognition. She could have taken the next bus out, gone back to the life she knew. But something deep inside her hardened like steel. She hadn't survived everything she'd endured, poverty, loneliness, the courage it took to leave her country, just to crawl home in shame. She was going to stay, and she was going to make something of herself. The first weeks were brutal. Amara scrubbed tables at a roadside diner for tips that barely covered rent in a dingy one-room apartment. The walls were so thin she could hear her neighbor's TV every night. Still, every morning she woke up early, braided her hair neatly, and showed up to work with a smile. It wasn't just pride. It was strategy. She listened, really listened, to the farmers and ranchers who came in for coffee at 5 a.m. She learned which properties were struggling, which families were drowning in debt, which banks were circling like vultures. And she learned about Alexander Maxwell. The man who had humiliated her wasn't the golden cowboy everyone thought. His family's fortune was crumbling. He'd gambled away half his inheritance on bad investments. The ranch was leveraged to the hilt. And worse, he was desperate for investors to save him. One night, after a 12-hour shift, Amara sat at her rickety kitchen table with a stack of notes she'd scribbled on napkins. Her fingers trembled as she logged into an old laptop and typed out her plan. If Alexander thought she was nothing, she'd prove she was everything. The rise. 2 years later, Amara Wilson walked into the First Texas Bank wearing a navy blue power suit that fit like destiny. Heads turned as her heels clicked against the polished floor. Gone was the scared, humiliated woman with the yellow dress. This Amara radiated confidence and wealth. She had built an empire quietly, starting with a small plot of neglected land she bought with every tip and spare dollar. Then another, and another. While others saw barren soil, she saw opportunity, organic farming, renewable energy leases, even ecotourism. Investors loved her vision. Banks practically threw money at her once they saw the returns. Now, she was one of the most influential landowners in the county. And today, she was here for a reason. Alexander sat in the corner office, his boots on the desk like he owned the world. But the sweat on his collar told another story. When he saw her, his jaw dropped so hard she thought it might hit the floor. "Amara?" he croaked. She smiled, slow and sharp. "Hello, Alexander." He scrambled to his feet, suddenly unsure of himself. Wow, you look different." "Successful?" she offered. "Powerful? Worth more than your entire ranch." His face flushed. "Now hold on. No need to be nasty." "Oh, I'm not being nasty," she said sweetly, stepping closer. "I'm being honest. Something you should have tried 2 years ago." He swallowed hard. "What do you want?" She dropped a thick folder on his desk. The papers fanned out like a deck of cards. "Your debt," she said simply. "I bought it. Every last cent." "Which means?" She leaned in, her voice soft as velvet and twice as deadly. "I own you." Alexander's knees actually buckled. You can't." "Oh, but I can." And I did. The news spread like wildfire. By the time the town council meeting rolled around, every seat was filled. People craned their necks to see the woman who dethroned the mighty Maxwell family. Amara walked in like a queen, her emerald dress catching the light, her chin high. Alexander sat at the front, pale and sweating, trying to save face. When the council president asked if anyone had comments on the proposed land development deal, Amara stood. The room fell silent. "I have one," she said, her voice carrying like a bell. "I intend to move forward with the eco-development on the Maxwell land." "My land." Gasps rippled through the crowd. All eyes swung to Alexander. "She's lying," he sputtered. "That land's been in my family for generations." Amara pulled out the signed papers and held them up for everyone to see. "Not anymore." Flashbulbs popped. Reporters scribbled notes. And Alexander? He crumpled into his chair like a man who just realized the world doesn't owe him a damn thing. Amara turned to the crowd, her voice steady. 2 years ago, I came here as an immigrant woman with nothing but hope. I was humiliated, laughed at, treated like dirt. Today, I stand before you as a landowner, an investor, and a proud member of this community. Don't you ever let anyone tell you what you're worth." The room erupted in applause. Amara didn't look back at Alexander as she walked out. He was history, and that's how the woman he humiliated became the most powerful person in his world. What do you think? Did Alexander get what he deserved? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life inspired stories.